Hey, this is Karen Coach Corner Chats, and on the podcast, I have Amy Eagan. Amy, where are you at, and what are you up to?
I'm at Drury University in Springfield, Missouri, NCAA Division II institution, and I just finished my third year as the women's basketball coach.
What were some of when you first started out at Drury, what were some of the things that you wanted to put in place, or what were you, I guess maybe, where was the program at when you took over?
Yeah. So the tradition of the program here has been really, really good. I actually came down here my first year and was an assistant coach for Molly Miller, who's now the head coach at Grand Canyon, and then stepped into the head role when she left for Grand Canyon. She had an unbelievable career here, and so for me taking over the program, I was pretty fortunate to be able to step into a situation where I knew a lot of the kids already, and able to continue kind of what she had done and what the program had done traditionally with it, and which means a lot of winning and a lot of championships, and it's been a fun 3 years.
What kind of pressure does that take when you follow someone who's got a program that's rolling and you come into that?
They always say don't follow the goat, right? Be the one that follows the goat that fails and then be that one. But I've been a head coach before, coming down here, and have had years of being a head coach. And so for me, I'm very confident in who I am and how I do things, and the way I run a program. So I think for me, when I was in the interview process, they even asked me, like, how are you going to follow Molly, after everything that she's done? And I just said, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be myself and be who I am as a coach, and I feel like that I can bring a lot of great things to the table as a head coach, and so I feel like I've done that, and like I said, I think it helped me kind of knowing the kids, being here a year as an assistant, knowing the kids, knowing what they're good at, bad at, some of the stuff with the culture of the program, and then be able to just kind of slide in there and implement in some of my things.
What are some of the things that you think that you bring to the table that were different than Molly?
Yeah, so I think everybody has a different way of winning, and I tell kids that and recruits that all the time. Just because what we do wins games doesn't mean that what you've done in the past wasn't good. Every coach has a different style, every coach has a different philosophy, and I don't believe there's one way of doing anything that's going to win you championships. And so I didn't really change a lot of things. I think for me, just understanding my strengths and my weaknesses as a coach, and I always try to hire my weaknesses to help out with some of that. But we've changed a little bit of some of the style of play, mainly because the personnel hasn't been exactly the same to what Molly had and was capable of doing. So we've definitely changed some of that. And I think that's been probably the biggest thing. Instead of pressing for 40 minutes and flying around, my first year here as a head coach, we ran some zone because we didn't have the athletes to run a man-to-man press the whole time. And so just changing up some things to fit kind of our kids and the personnel here has probably been the biggest thing.
Coaching, what brought you into getting into this side of things?
Yeah, so it's crazy because, so I'm not going to date myself too much, right? But years ago when, I played college basketball, and I tell this story a lot. Like, I came from a small town of about 2,000 people, and then went to college in Kirksville, Missouri at Truman State. And when I was looking at what major to do and to pick, I really thought I was going to be a high school coach and a physical education teacher is really what I thought I was going to do. And I think you tend to kind of pick majors and careers that you grew up around. And that's what I grew up around, being a teacher or a farmer or, something like that. So I really thought that's what I was going to do. And that's really kind of the direction I was heading with my education. Well, and then I graduated. I went overseas and played in Norway for a year. And I had the opportunity when I came back to finish my undergrad. And I was going to work on my teaching master's at Truman. And then Quincy University called me. And I actually had a cousin on the team at Quincy. And they called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in our assistant job?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I never really thought about being a college coach," which is crazy. You think about that's crazy because I played college basketball, but I really never came across across that in my mind or even thought about it. And so I said, "Well, I'll just I'll come interview and see what it's like." And of course, as I'm saying all this, back then, getting assistant jobs, and it was a whole different process than now. But I went on my interview and I walked off campus that day and I said, if I blew this because I thought this was something I didn't want to do, I'm going to shoot myself. And I actually ended up getting offered the job. And so that's kind of how I got into coaching. So I was an assistant at Quincy University for 4 years, and then went on and took my first head job at an NAI institution in Iowa.
So what was those first 4 years as an assistant? Like, were you just like a sponge? Like, what were maybe some of your roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, I think I was really, really fortunate. You take what you can. I think that's always good experiences. I always tell kids that play for me that want to get into coaching, your next step, you may not always learn what you want to do, but you're going to learn a lot of things maybe you don't want to do. And that's how you form your own philosophy with stuff. Well, I was really, really lucky that I worked for a guy that I learned a lot of how I wanted to do things. Probably one of the best X and O's coaches I've ever been around and ever seen it at any level. Just a great guy that I think really, really taught me how to win with kids on and off the floor. And he's my biggest mentor. He really, I think, laid the groundwork for who I wanted to be as a coach. We had a lot of success there because of the coach that he was and the person that he was. And so I was really, really fortunate to be able to learn a lot from him.
You mentioned the crushing the X's and O's, but you also mentioned how good he is off the court. How important is that, not only in your coaching now, but what was it about what he did off the court that you were like, wow, that's so impactful?
Yeah, he knew and taught them a lot about how to prepare themselves for the real world. And I think that's so important with kids these days. And we talk a lot about in our program, which we talked a lot about even with him. Everything that we do, we're trying to teach you habits to make you successful when you get out of here, right? So in other words, we're trying to kind of use basketball to learn how to handle tough situations, how to handle adverse situations, how to work as a team, So we really try to put a lot of things that we do into life perspectives and how that can transition to them into the working world or into their careers, their families, those kind of things, to make them successful. So he did such a great job at that, getting those kids to understand how academics, the habits of academics in the classroom and going to class, how that transitions to the real world, and just how you handle, everything off the court. And so I think, carrying a lot of that on, one of the things that I've done that throughout the years, that kind of is the same scenario as those kind of things, is that we do like how-to day. We call them how-to days or personal growth days, where we teach them anything and everything. I mean, for example, on Tuesday, today's Wednesday, right? On Tuesday, we did a day where we taught them how to sew a button to a fabric, or how to, they have a hole in like, not the holy jeans that they wear, because they all wear jeans that have holes all over them, but they have a hole in one of their pockets or something. How do you quickly sew something that doesn't show? As I told them, it's a lot of stuff that doesn't show, how to do those things, because you might need that someday, when you're in the real world. And it's crazy because at first they're all like, what? And then by the end of it, I think they had a lot of fun with it. And I think they realized that, hey, someday I may need to sew a button on. So we do a lot of things like that I think can help them once they get into the real world, in many different situations.
You talked about too going to Norway and then coming back. Mm-hmm. Was it hard to give up the playing and becoming a coach, or was it something that you were like, what, I've played, I enjoyed it, it was awesome to be overseas, but now I'm ready to maybe try something different?
Yeah. It's kind of both. I think I was very fortunate that I actually got another year and got to play professionally. So, I had that experience. It was a different experience, but it was an experience I would never take back. So it was good that I got to continue where a lot of kids after 4 years don't have that opportunity. So I feel very blessed and lucky to have had that opportunity. But one of the things, I think that I've really found about coaching, and just because you're a good player or a great player doesn't mean you're a great coach, right? And so for me, the hardest thing when I was transitioning and becoming an assistant coach was getting kids I see the game really well. Like I see it really well. I see what's going to happen. I see reads, like all that kind of stuff has always been really easy for me and probably been one of my strengths. So how do you get kids that maybe don't see that or that are younger and need to learn that? How do you get them to that level? And so where a lot of times, I think a lot of kids that transition to that coaching world immediately are like, how do you not see that, and get frustrated or get mad? For me, and what I try to tell young coaches, you got to find ways. Like, your strengths are maybe somebody else's weaknesses, your weaknesses are somebody else's strengths. So you got to find ways to teach them the game and teach them how to learn things. And so that was probably the hardest because, in every kid's mind that transitions to coaching, the easiest way to do things is just go do it yourself, right? Just give me the jersey back. Let me put the jersey on. Let me go out there and show you how to do it. But you can't do those things as a coach. So, and it still sometimes, gets frustrating with things like that. But that's also kind of the fun and exciting thing about coaching is that, that's a challenge. You got to find a way to get kids to see the game the way you see it.
What was it like when you decided to kind of pursue coaching and what your family made of it?
Yeah.
What was it like when you said, you know what, I'm going to go be an assistant coach?
Right. Well, I think then and at that point, I think they were excited I was going to get a full-time job, right? I'm going to make money, not live at home. So I think that was exciting. But I don't think anyone in my family really knew what coaching entailed. Now I get a lot of, why do you work so hard? Why do you work so much? You need to do other things besides basketball. You need to do other things besides work. But they also can tell, when they're around me or when they're with me or when we're talking, how much I just love what I do, and I think for a lot of people in society, they don't have the opportunity to really get a job that really makes them happy, that they enjoy going to, that, I don't have Sundays where I'm like, oh God, tomorrow's a Monday, I got to go to work. I just every day love what I do, and so I think I'm very fortunate with that, and I think they know that and see that. And a lot of times when you're able to work in your passion, which is teaching young women and life and basketball and that, I think they understand that it's just something that makes me happy and that I enjoy doing. So they're all for it. They come to games, they wear the gear, all that kind of stuff.
As you were spending the time as an assistant coach and you're around like such an awesome mentor, what causes you to make that next step, to move on and say, all right, I think I'm ready to go try and become a head coach of my own?
Yeah, good question, because I always say that he just kicked me out. After 4 years, he's like, listen, we've had too much success. It's time for you to go and do it on your own. But, an opportunity came around, and I went on an interview, and I loved my interview. I just loved everything about it. It was St. Ambrose in the Quad Cities up in Iowa. And I was fortunate enough to get offered the job, and then I took the job. And I'll never forget, after I took the job, I go, in my mind, I was sitting there going, do I even know what the heck I'm doing? I think when you take that next step, there's a lot of questions like, do I really know how to run a program? Do I really know what I need to do day to day, year to year? Because a lot of times as an assistant, it's laid out for you, but you do, you just kind of know the seasons, you kind of know how to do things, and if not, you kind of learn and grow with it. But I'll never forget that first day sitting there going, oh gosh, do I even know what I'm doing? because now it's all in my hands. But again, that's kind of the fun thing. You form your own philosophy, all those kind of things.
When you look back, what are some of the things that you look back as a head coach now versus the head coach that you were that first time? What were some of the things you look back and go, thank goodness I'm not doing that anymore?
Yeah. Oh, a lot, a lot. Um, I think it's funny because I stay in contact with a lot of kids I coached at the beginning, and a lot of kids I coached throughout. Uh, so many of them are like, God, you're so soft now. Like, you used to be so tough and so mean. And I think a lot of things have changed for me as I've grown into a seasoned coach, I want to say, and as I've grown with times. I think if I was the exact same coach that I was back when I first started, I probably wouldn't have a job very long, because things have changed throughout the years so much with how you handle situations and how you handle kids and, those kind of things. And so I think in regards to like where I've changed in that, I think I've grown a ton with X's and O's, and grown a ton with how to handle hard situations, how to handle kids, and just how to run a program in general. And that's something I think is very, very important for every coach to do. I think you should always be trying to grow. You should always be trying to see and ask yourself what you can do better. And I think I've done a pretty good job with that.
What was it like developing and bringing in your first coaching staff?
Yeah. So, when I took my first job, all I got was me and a GA, graduate assistant. And then I had 26 kids. So it was a lot to manage, and a lot of work. And my graduate assistant was somebody that was taking classes as well. So it was really, really important with who I hired in that position. And so one thing that, again, my mentor, who's awesome, taught me was like, you need to hire people that complement either, number one, what you don't want to do, or number two, what you're not good at. So I think I learned from a really young age as a coach that I'm not great at everything, right? That I have weaknesses, which is fine. And I'm really okay with understanding that I do have weaknesses. And then what I try to do is either hire people that complement those weaknesses, or that do things that I don't want to do, right? So I think that is how I've always, in every situation that I've been in, I've formed my staff.
How do you go about asking, like finding that out from someone? So
Yeah.
whatever it might be that you're not good at, how do you just find that through just talking with them and their demeanor, or do you kind of lay it out and go, look, I would like you to do this, this, and this because I don't want to?
Yeah. So I usually kind of, I started with just general conversations about, who they are as a person, what kind of coach they are, I ask them what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And then, I kind of can branch it off from there if they don't speak on something that I know is important. Like, for instance, when I was hiring one of my staff here at Drury, I needed somebody that could do some social media stuff, or that was okay with doing social media. So, I asked, it wasn't mentioned at the beginning, like, this is one of my strengths or this is one of my weaknesses, but how are you? What experience do you have with social media? Or what experience do you have with weights and conditioning? Just different things like that I think you end up, if they don't speak on it, asking them, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and then what also that you need, can they do or not do. And then you eventually find either someone that fits almost everything that you need, or that you can maybe even train a little bit to fit some of that.
I think it's really cool that you're willing to say, look, I don't know how to do everything. And then
Right.
just you mentioning social media, weightlifting, nutrition, like, I don't know how you would do it as one person anyway. The other thing how important has social media become in terms of coaching?
Oh man, it's crazy. I think I tell all of the kids that want to work for me, that do work for me, or my kids. Like, I have a couple kids right now that are graduating that want to get into the coaching world. Like, you need to make yourself as marketable as you can, and this is what's going to make you marketable. knowing how to do social media, right? Knowing the good, the bad, knowing if you know how to do any kind of graphic type stuff. If you have to start at a lower level, which a lot of kids do, having a strength and conditioning experience, whether it's getting your certification in that or some kind of certification, or being involved in strength and conditioning at observing, whatever that is. There's a lot of things I think that I know that at lower levels, can be very beneficial to coaching staffs, because social media is so big right now. I mean, kids are on 5 different Instagram, TikTok, all of that. And that's what they do. If they're not doing basketball and they're not doing school, a lot of them are sitting on their phone on Instagram. So being out there, being present in front of them, and making yourself marketable, I think in some way, I think that can be a big advantage.
So how long are you at this stop here in Iowa?
So I was there for 2 years as a head coach, and then I have a crazy story.
We love crazy stories.
So I was there for 2 years as the head coach, and like I said, it was me with a graduate assistant, and I had 26 kids, and I knew what I was getting myself into with it. So I had varsity and JV, and it was a little bit smaller school, NAIA, and after 2 years, my brother called me, and my brother was a store manager for WalGreens in St. Louis. And yeah, crazy story, I told you. And he called me, and we were just talking. He's like, listen, he's like, I know you're tired. Like, you've done nothing but basketball. Like, why don't you come here? You're a female. You can get in WalGreens here. You can move up really, really fast. You can work way less hours and make way more money. And I was like, okay, well, I can be closer to home. I can make more money. And at a young age, kids think money's everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, why not? So I did. I resigned from coaching, and I got in as an EXA, executive assistant at WalGreens, which is the lowest of the manager levels. And I was an EXA for about 6 months, and then I went to an assistant after that for about 6 months. And within about a year and a half, right around there, I had my own store. And so I was making a lot of money, and working primarily 8 to 5 usually with stuff. And I hated it. It was awful. It was not something that was for me by any means. And I know it sounds like really cheesy kind of, but I think sometimes when you are put through some jobs or some situations that you just do not like, you understand the value and the passion that you have. And I think that has honestly made me a better coach, because I know what it's like not to be in coaching and not to be doing what I love to do, and helping young women and teaching the game. And so I think I was almost fortunate that I got out, because I had the ability to learn that. And then after I was out about 2.5 years, right around there. And then a AD called me from, it was in the same conference as St. Ambrose, and said, hey, we need somebody to come in here and rebuild our women's basketball program. Would you be interested? And so I don't even think I visited. I think I just said yes on the spot because I wanted to get back in. So I had the ability to get back in and go to a school in St. Ambrose Conference. And I was there for 3 years, and then Truman State opened up, and Truman is where I played and went to school. And so I was able to get the D2 head job there. And so I was there, and then until Drury, and then I came down to Drury.
So you go and step away from coaching and do the WalGreens thing, almost like a rebalancing whatever, calibrating yourself a little bit, and realizing like I'm not a 9 to 5 person. Like I need to be in something you talked about earlier, just the love of coaching, making impact, and what have you. What was it like to go and take over a team that was in the same conference as a program that you already coached at?
right. It was different. It was hard. I mean, I kind of did that with Truman to Drury as well. I mean, obviously, you build relationships with all those kids, and you get to know not just them, but their families, and they become your family and those kind of things. It's probably just more awkward than anything, because I think a lot of kids don't understand some of the situations and why you do things, of course, with it. Um, but in reality, I mean, building a program there and having the ability to get back in, I mean, that was my number one thing, and I had to do what I felt was right for me. And at that point and at that time, it was stepping away to go to WalGreens and then WalGreens back in. And I was fortunate enough that I don't know now if there's very many coaches that if they're out of coaching could get right back into a college head job, and I was so fortunate just because she knew me and had seen me coach at Ambrose that I was able to do that.
How cool is it to go back to your alma mater where you played and then become a head coach there?
Pretty cool. I mean, you walk around every day like you're a hero, right? No, it was cool. I mean, the relationships that I had there, whether it was with the faculty, across campus, in the community, the young kids that saw me play there that were now older, the relationships that you have a lot of times last a lifetime, and it was like that. It was when I came back, it was like stepping back into something that was really, really comfortable, and really, really enjoyable because I loved my time as a player at Truman. And so being able to do that and be around some familiar faces and people that knew me and supported me, there's nothing like that.
So you're at Truman. What is the draw to go away from your alma mater and then head to Drury?
Yeah. So just some conversations with Molly, the ability. I mean, if a lot of people know the history of Drury and the program, how successful it has been, the tradition, and the people that surround the program is a big reason why. And so the ability to come down and take over a national power and work in a situation that really, really, really values athletics along with academics, but values athletics and wants to win and gives you the resources to win, I think is big. I always say, and I tell kids this a lot, like, I want to work somewhere where I can win and have the ability to win, and have the resources and the people surrounding the program that give you those options or those abilities. So that's why we work so hard as coaches, right? Nobody wants to lose. So having that opportunity, I think, was something that I just couldn't pass up on. And it's been amazing being down here.
What does it take once you're at the top, like such a successful program? How do you do that year in and year out? How do you, they always say it's hard once you're on the top to stay on the top. How do you continue to keep that consistency?
Right. Well, it's hard. They always say, like you said, it's a lot harder to stay there than to build it, right? It's just about getting the right people. I think for us, it's about getting kids to understand that, winning's important, and what it takes to win is what it takes to win. And we got to be able to do those things, whether it's summer, whether it's during the year, all those kind of things. But at the same time, understanding that, like, winning isn't everything. We definitely want to develop them as people. We want them to have a great experience here. They get a great education. But it is hard. I mean, it's hard. You got to get talent, right? You got to get some kids. We got to steal some kids that are D1 kids or D1 talent to be able to stay up there every year, because that's what all the great programs do. And so for us, it's just a matter of getting those kids to understand, like, hey, come here, win a championship, whether it's conference, national championship, and can help us continue to do what we do.
Is Drury that level? Is that where you'd like to be? Or is there part of you that you mentioned D1 recruits? Is there part of you that one day would love to be the head coach of maybe a Division I school?
I mean, I feel like for me, it's a matter of kind of like I said, being somewhere where I feel like we can win, and win doing it the right way and with the right people. And I have that here at Drury, and I'm really, really enjoying my time here. People ask me that all the time about going D1, and it'd have to be a great situation. Just like always, I've had opportunities to do that in the past, and it just hasn't been something that I felt was either the right timing in my life or something that I wanted. I like what I do, and the kids I get to do it with, and the people that I get to be around here. So I don't know. It would take a lot. It'd have to be a perfect situation.
It sounds like you have matured in terms of what kind of your options. Like at the beginning, they were like, "Hey, you want to come here?" And you're like, "Sure, I'll go." And now it seems like you kind of know what you want in your program
Yeah.
when you get there, because you've experienced 26 girls with you and just another helpful coach and all those types of things, to where you're at now, to recognize that you really enjoy where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always think the grass isn't greener on the other side, right? You got to be thankful and for what you have, and where you're at, and I feel very blessed to be here. And so, just because we tell the kids the same thing. Don't get wowed by obviously all the facilities and everything that they have money wise, right? You got to make sure it's the right fit in a lot of different areas, a lot of other areas, whether it's the people you're around, because they form who you're going to be, right? And so for me, it's the same way. Oh gosh, would I like to be able to charter everywhere or, do those things? Yeah, but that's not the end all for me. I want to be happy, and I want to be happy doing what I do, and the people that I'm with, and the kids I'm surrounded by. And like I said, I definitely have that here.
The other thing I notice is a lot of your coaching has been in that kind of Midwest central of the U.S. What is the draw? Like, what is a draw for someone to come out to Missouri to play basketball?
Man, I'm a homebody. So this is not a lie, but I grew up in Northeast Missouri, and I didn't even want to go away to school at all. Truman was only 50 minutes from my hometown, and that was a struggle for me. And so being out of the Midwest probably wouldn't be an option for me, because I just I've just been here all my life. I have a ton of contacts, a ton of friends, a ton of whether it's AU, high school coaches, all that kind of stuff, and that makes a difference. When you want to be successful, is having those relationships and having those contacts, and the kids that have played for you, talking to other kids, and talking to high school coaches, and talking to AU coaches, and about their experience with you, and all that kind of stuff. So I think I've always just been a person that knows that, like, the Midwest for me is probably the best fit. Although, it has been really rainy here, and I'm ready for some sunshine. So I don't know, I might need some heat sometime. And I don't like to be cold, but I put up with it.
Is a lot of your recruiting from like the Missouri area, or do you find yourself having to branch out to find recruits?
Yeah, we do mainly. I mean, we start local. There's some really, really good basketball in Southwest Missouri, so we start local, and then we branch out from there. We're pretty fortunate that we don't have to go too far with things, and really a lot of that I always say is because I'm someone that, like, when I recruit a kid, I like to see him play in person. And play in person multiple times. I think that's something for me that just helps with me knowing, hey, this is the kid I'm getting. This is how they fit into our system, all those kind of things. I'm not one that, like, enjoys watching film and watching and evaluating kids on film, because I think there's so many more things you can see in person. So when you talk about, like, Division II and budgets and those kind of things, we don't really have the ability just to fly to the West Coast and watch kids play. And so it's just kind of been that way. And I know that's not for everyone, and a lot of people are different with that, but that's just who I am as a coach. And so it's been mainly in areas where either I've seen the kid play a lot, or I've had the ability to see them in person quite a bit throughout their high school career.
You mentioned earlier about people saying, Amy, all you do is basketball, basketball, basketball. What do you do when when Amy is not in basketball mode? What does she like to do?
Yeah. Well, I have the best dog in the world. That's the coolest dog in the world. No. No, I mean, I have a great group of friends and family here that I'm with a lot, and so I enjoy that. I work out. I love working out. I love being outside. I do anything. When we have, obviously, Branson and Table Rock Lake is close to us, so I'll be down there a lot during the summer. I've become a decent, not a good, a decent golfer. So I'll go play some golf and be around that. But I stay busy. And I've done a really good job. And I kind of talked about the St. Ambrose with not always working and not doing anything besides basketball. I really found that balance that I need. And like May is kind of a down month for us. So in May, I'll take some time away from the game and from work, and kind of refresh and get going for the following year and those kind of things. So there's times of the year that we're able to do that as well. And we have to do that, not just me, but my assistants. I make them do that because it's such a long year. And we work such random hours and random days, and we don't get a lot of weekends, those kind of things. So we definitely, I think, know that balance is important.
When you all come, so the girls go home during the first part of the summer. When they come back, what are some of the first things that you try to mix in the new freshmen? Do you do a lot of team building and bonding? What does it look like when we return to campus for your hoops team?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit different because of COVID. So now I think we're going to be a little bit more normal this year with stuff. But our kids, they'll come back in June, and they'll be here primarily all of June. And so almost all of them will take a summer class. So they'll be busy doing that. They'll work camps for us. Our camps are in June, so they'll all work camps. And then we let our upperclassmen run a lot of the workouts and a lot of the program in the summer. It's a great opportunity for them to start to lead. It's a great opportunity for them as a team to start finding who the voices are, those kind of things. But we'll give them a lot of guidance, like, hey, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to be thinking, those kind of things with it. But they'll lead a lot of it. They'll take a lot of the control of it. We'll have some meetings about, again, how-to days and personal growth days, those kind of things, to lay some groundwork of who we are, how we do things, whether that's in the classroom, in the community, those kind of things with it. But we keep them busy in June. I mean, I think it's such a great opportunity for our new kids to really get involved with our upperclassmen and to really learn who we are, how we do things, and to be comfortable, so that when they come back in August, it's not like, oh my gosh, this has changed. I don't know any of these people. They're able to slide right into it in August.
You mentioned earlier too, your assistant coaching first stop and how impactful your mentor coach was then. Are you still in contact with him, and do you still now kind of look for tidbits here and there of hey, I'm having this issue. What's your thoughts on it? Or just to talk, just shop?
Yeah. So yeah, still in contact. I mean, it's crazy because that group of kids that played my last couple of years there that were so successful with him, and that everyone's really, really close. I mean, we have group chats every day, which is crazy. It's just hard to explain because they're so close because of how much they went through with winning and just, the seasons. They're just a really close team. And so he's still involved in all that. And so we still talk around those things. And when we have get-togethers and that, they try to get together usually once a year. And sometimes he's around if he can be around, and sometimes not. So I don't probably call him up as much anymore and just say, hey, how would you handle this situation, that situation? That's probably just because I feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more seasoned in those areas. But he's definitely still around. Yeah. He retired from coaching. So he stayed in college for a while and then eventually moved back to Kentucky and won a couple state championships there as a high school coach. And he's retired now. So yeah, I can't bug him that much. He's got to get away from the game now, have some time for other stuff.
You talked about too, you just mentioned the closeness of that group,
Hmm.
and when they had all that success. How important is that team chemistry? Like, even when you're recruiting, are you thinking about like how would they fit in? Like you talked about using the summer as an opportunity for you to step away so that the girls can start developing their own kind of their own relationships and stuff. How important is them not necessarily getting
Yes.
along, but being cohesive?
Absolutely. I mean, it's you're never going to have the same exact personalities on your team. You're never going to have the same exact values on your team, the same exact kids. You don't want those things as a coach, right? But they have to understand that as individuals and as players that maybe we don't have the same exact thought with stuff, but we have to respect each other, and we have to grow with each other, and we have to communicate and be able to learn how to handle those situations. That's what life's all about, right? I mean, we're seeing that in our everyday world these days with stuff. And so just a lot of conversations with that. But, in the recruiting process, one of the things that we do is, and again, COVID changed some of that just because with visits and those kind of things. But what we do is we have our kids, we tell the recruits, come to campus, and then we have the recruits spend time with our players without us around as a staff. And we do a couple things, a couple reasons. Number one, we do that because we want the recruit to be able to see what kind of kids they are without us around, and be able to ask them questions either about the program, how we do things, because I want them to know like what we tell them and who we are is what our kids experience, with it. So we're really comfortable saying, hey, go spend some time with them, go find out whatever, ask them whatever questions you need to. On the flip side of that, what the recruit doesn't know is that our kids are also evaluating them some, do they fit in here? Do they have the right goals? I always tell recruits, like, the last thing you want to do is pick a college and you're not surrounded by kids that have the same goals as you, right? We want to win championships. We want to, we want to play for those things every year. Well, that takes a lot of things. It takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of sweat, sometimes a lot of tears, right? But so our kids kind of do the same thing to make sure that what we are trying to accomplish here, we're not getting a kid that just doesn't care about winning, as we go. So, and we kind of already have an idea with that, as a staff, and kind of do our research on those kind of things. But it's always good from a kid's perspective too, I think.
You mentioned earlier about if I coached like I started out coaching, just real intense, like someone said you're a softie now. How does one become quote unquote soft, but also have such a high level of expectation that, hey, when you come here, Drury's about winning. We're going to
Right.
win. We're a winning culture. So how do we keep that expectation, but at the same time be supportive and like understanding and what have you?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it was, when I was young and got into coaching, I think as a young coach, you think, I got to make sure these kids understand who the boss is, because whether it's age difference or not age difference, or you being a new coach. Well, I think now, like, being a seasoned coach, I mean, a lot of kids know when we're recruiting them or they come on campus, the success that I've had. And a lot of them already know from word of mouth what type of coach I am. Well, I would say, I'm a player's coach. Like, I like those relationships with the kids. We talk, we goof around, we do those things. But just because you're a player's coach doesn't mean you're soft. And where before, when I was young, I was kind of scared that the kids would think as a young coach that if I laughed with them or whatever, that I wasn't serious. Now I've learned that you can kind of have both sides of that. So we joke around, we have fun, all those kind of things. We have a good relationships, but they also know what our expectations are, what our standards are. And a lot of that's just through communication, a lot of talks, a lot of communication, a lot of just back and forth with, hey, this is what I need, and what are you seeing? And, I give our kids a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of options with who we are or anything like that, but we have some conversations. It's not just about me. It's not just my program. It's my assistants program. It's my players program. So we all play a part in who we are and how we do things. So I think we really just work together to form that.
This chat's been really, really cool. Um, what are some ways that people, if they want to follow like along with your coaching and the Drury ride, that they can follow and connect with you?
Yeah, I would definitely say Twitter and Instagram are the two things that I use the most. And Coach Amy Eagan, and I think my Instagram is just Amy Eagan, but it may be Coach. I don't know. But I would say those are the two easiest ways to follow. I'm on there quite a bit. I try to stay, as we talk, pretty active on social media with stuff. Obviously, if you follow any of the Drury Panthers stuff, you're going to get a good idea of our kids and our players and staff and those things as well. So those are probably the two easiest ways. And I'm pretty good at, if somebody reaches out, decent, I should say, pretty good. I try to respond to a lot of people and try to communicate, and whether it's grow the game or do podcasts, those kind of things. I think all that's important to developing as a coach, and like I said, growing young kids and teaching young kids too.
Well, this has been awesome. I'm going to shut this thing down. This is Kieran with Coach's Corner Chats with Amy Eagan, and I'm out. Peace.